Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. A pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network on a show presented today by Yes, Realty Partners. Say it loud and say it proud. Yes, Realty Partners, a team you can count on to get you through the buying and selling of your home. So much to cover on today's program, guys. On Fridays, we have fun. We have fun, frankly, pretty much every day.
Any day that ends with day.
Any day that any day that ends with
or is
day.
Is that the cocktail?
Did you hear that Keithism right there? Any day that ends in day.
Come on, you've heard that before.
Any day that ends in day, we have fun.
Did I just make that up?
I think you just have. You heard that before, Judah?
Any day that ends in Y.
I've heard that one. I've heard any day that ends in Y, but any day that ends in day, I've never heard that. Oh,
but it's the same damn thing.
Well,
Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have day at the end of them.
I think you just made it your own, which is.
Did I really?
That's why we find you endearing and appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, Well, I appreciate that, but what I'm worried about is what you say in private, but that's a whole different story.
What we say in private is the same thing we say in public.
That's why I love you so much.
John Blair, welcome to the program, my friend. Lisa Nottingham, hello. So what the what?
Shout out to John. I didn't get a chance to watch the show yesterday, but I think he was on your noonday show, right?
John Blair gave us a take to read on the 1230 show on upzoning.
Yeah, my favorite topic.
I love the upzoning topic.
My mustache loves it too.
Do you want me to relay that take to you?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it. We can surely get into that, and I'm sure John will come in. But we kind of wanted to, at least I did anyway, kind of continue this watt to watt, what the watt's going on here. And we didn't really get into Fulvana County too much on Wednesday because it was just an awesome rock star conversation with Pri and Scott.
Oh, so good.
It was. I would tell you.
We got props on that show from a lot of people.
So did I. One of the top.
Yeah.
And Smith.
Well, Pri's great.
Smith didn't talk too much, so maybe that was part of it.
You talk plenty.
Funny. Lake Monticello, I just took a look at it.
Your neighborhood?
My neighborhood.
Your home?
Where I live. Been there since 87.
You follow it closely. Bill McChesney, hello.
I follow it closely because obviously I live there. We do a lot of business there, so forth and so on. But it's a real kind of litmus test.
Sure.
Did I just make up that?
I think it's a good barometer neighborhood.
Better choice of words.
For Central Virginia real estate. Why do we think Lake Monticello is a good barometer neighborhood?
Well, for me, it's a numbers thing, right? You've got 4,300 homes. It's all in one spot. They're all single-family detached, so it makes it a little easier to crunch numbers. And you do have kind of a spread, right? Entry level, and then you do have the waterfronts, golf course, the acres, which is a development I did inside Lake Monticello, that kind of thing. You got a good spread. But man, we've got 7 homes on the market as of this morning, ranging from, let's call it 300,000, 299, 900, 300 grand.
Did you hear that, guys? 4,300 homes in Lake Monticello. Meredith Young, did you hear that? 4,300 homes, Zyshad, Raihan. Did you hear that? In Lake Monticello, only 7 on the market right now.
And climbing to 799, 900, let's call it 800 grand.
So 300 to 800K the spread.
But the jump from 299, the next jump up is 349 to 350. It's the same 349.9. I'm going to round it up to 350 just, because I'm a Marine and I can only count to 3.
Okay.
So there's only one home. That's only been on the market for 2 days. But what I found interesting, and just to throw it out there for your read and the folks that are watching and listening, and particularly if we've got some real estate professionals on board, I was looking, at pendings, right?
Okay.
So what is currently on the market and what is currently in pending. So pending are homes that are under contract that are in the process of going through the closing process. So there's 13 homes. So it's basically a 2-to-1 ratio, right? For everyone that comes on, one goes, well, not 2-to-1, 1-to-1, right? Actually 2-to-1, I apologize. It is 2-to-1. But what I found the most interesting, out of 13, only 5 of those homes were in single-digit days on market. So I'm going to try to say this a little clearer. the balance of them were between 142, 40, 70, 40, 70. So what that's telling me is the homes that were sitting on the market for a long time all of a sudden went into pending pretty much the start of the year. And
what do you attribute that to? Rates dropping a little bit?
no,
I mean, people locking in rates now below 6. Good credit below 6.
yeah, and if Scott Morris is right, which I think he is, we're going to start seeing 4.5, or somewhere.
Scott Morris on Wednesday's Real Talk was talking about agents get ready for mid 4s, upper 4s by potentially summertime.
But what the heck is that going to do to our inventory?
Well, I think we know what's going to happen. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah,
Let the folks know.
well,
It's going to chew it all up. The meager pickings we got.
so it's a double-edged sword, right? So I've got a crystal ball in front of me, and the crystal ball probably and I know about the same amount of stuff. It could be.
No, your crystal ball's proven to be accurate.
My crystal ball has been pretty accurate.
Yeah, except for your prop bets on the talk show.
Yeah, but
besides that, I know you do that for the sake of a talk show.
No, I do that for fun.
For the sake of a talk show. The talk show's fun for you.
Well, as I've said numerous times, when this stops being fun.
Yeah, like
done.
anything for us.
Stop being fun, we're done. Look at that. Smith did something else.
Stop being fun, we're done. Any day that ends in day.
Yeah, there you go. And I give Yonna a hard time on her yoga.
Turkeys can fly in a hurricane.
They can. You just got to throw them high enough. So, look, I think it kind of goes to the conversation we were having before. Conversation we were having with clients in November and December is like, man, now's the time to buy. Now the time is to sell, because we think the spring market is going to spring a lot sooner than, let's say, traditional spring markets. And I think this is what these numbers are proving to us, that that's what's happening. And I also just happened to pull, just for a quick analysis, what has sold year to date, Lake Monticello, just from January 1 to today. So it was 10 homes that have sold in the first 20 days. So that's 0.5 homes per day closing. Median sales price was 302. Median days on market 45. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, 1,800 square feet. But if you start looking at the days on markets on that, a lot, and these were homes that were in the market probably October, November. They were on 200 days, 50 days, 60 days. There was only 2 that were 4 and 5 days on market, and frankly, they priced them right and moved out. So we can quote the good Dr. Lisa Sturtevant. We can quote Dr. Yoon. We can quote
Lisa Sturtevant, the bright chief economist. Dr. Yoon, the National Association of Realtors chief economist.
We can quote all these folks, but the reality of it is, the market is getting tighter.
The inventory is.
The overall market is getting tighter, right?
I mean, we could make a legitimate argument, and I'm curious of your take here, that this may be the most, I feel like I say this once a quarter, Judah Wickower. Is this the most difficult time in the history of America for first-time home buyers?
How many years have you been doing this?
Long time.
Every time.
Every time. I mean, think about it. There's no inventory. The inventory is getting more expensive, and he's saying that the inventory is about to get even less.
I think it's going to get less for a couple of reasons. And I've got a couple more reports to share with you. Because
see that?
I
like the reports.
Coffee and reading. There you go.
I like it. I read them all.
There's a couple that I haven't handed to you yet. That there's some reports that have been hit the market that I'm halfway through, talking about millennials, the difficulty of millennials, and that's something we've been talking about forever to buy, right? They get hit every time they turn around,
yeah.
Right? It was the pandemic, and then
student loan debt.
Interest rates were too low. They were competing against folks
baby boomers,
look like me,
empty
right?
nesters,
and it's still just getting more difficult.
Now it's the inflation, the groceries, the gas.
That's exactly what this article.
The credit cards.
Yeah. It was a national report, and it was that inflation was basically the key thing, which we talked about that when it started.
Yeah.
Mid 2022.
I mean, have you had this thought? What happens if housing gets out of control again, and how Jay Powell's going to respond to that.
You know, that's a great question, and I'm surely not smart enough to answer it.
Because you're basically saying that the inventory is about to drop, which is going to make the price points uptick again.
Well, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but again, the barometer is Lake Monticello. I kind of just keep a track on that. A month ago, it wasn't 7 homes. You know, it was double digit now, 20, 30 homes on the market, right? And we were having the conversation at that time, okay, my inventories may be starting to get back to normal, right? You know, normal, just again, to focus at Lake Monticello. Normally, it's a normal market of my years of being there. It's about 1% is kind of normal. So that's about 40 or 50 homes on the market is kind of a normal thing. My God,
we have 7.
Well, another interesting thing, which I pull new construction out. There's 6 new construction in there. When was the last time we talked about
paper houses?
Paper houses in Lake Monticello. But these are homes that are ready to put a contract on today and close in a normal process. But they're ranging, you know, basically, you know, the median sales price, so that you know, is $595,000, but list price, excuse me. You know, but there's 3 high-end waterfront homes on there that have been sitting between 70 and 165 days, which means they're overpriced. They probably were built in the 1970s. I haven't looked at it in great detail, and they probably need a lot of work, and somebody isn't going to be spending that kind of money. But if you want to buy something under $375, there's 3 homes for sale, Lake Monticello.
I mean,
that's just insane.
That's insane. That's insane. Questions coming in. Neil Williamson is throwing jabs and zingers at you.
I've been studying. I don't know if you remember when I sent you guys the wiki how on how to shave a mustache.
He is sharing a link of how to shave. Yeah. Literally. We love you, king of content.
I can't even look at that, and that doesn't surprise
me. The president of the Free Enterprise Forum, and an all-around A-plus guy. Yeah. Meredith Young, the realtor, has questions for you.
Yeah, great. I love it. Love to do some market analysis or do some case studies.
Were there price adjustments on those that went pending in the beginning of the year, or did more buyers enter the market, Keith?
So I did this early this morning, so I have not actually taken a look into the individual listings. I actually got it set up here. I can take a look at that here in a moment, if you wouldn't mind chatting for a little bit. But I'll just need to go ahead and open that up real quick, and I will tell you here.
Absolutely. So realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, guys. Click the partners tab. Actually, I'm going to highlight on Real Talk with Keith Smith the reports and the data, the market reports that Keith is putting together. He's got Albemarle County 2022 year-end data, Charlottesville Albemarle Area Association of Realtors 2022 year-end data, the year-end data for Charlottesville City and Fluvanna County. So if you go to realtalkwithkeithsmith.com and you click Market Reports on the menu bar, you can see the year-end data for these municipalities, number of homes sold, single-family detached homes sold, attached homes sold. This is just great data, and it's in very digestible form. Did you ask him if we were uploading all the reports to that tab that he sends to us, Keith, or Judah?
Yeah, Judah and I talked about it this morning.
You did talk about it this morning?
I edited, and actually, if you would like, you can buzz through some of the Fluvanna slides. I did fix them a little, or based on some awesome feedback from listeners and viewers. Thank you very much.
But it's just these sets of slides that are going up on the website.
It's just Fluvanna. I didn't get a chance to do the other ones. What I was requested to do,
are you on a 3-shot? Let's weave them in on a 3-shot, Judah Whitcower. Go ahead, Keith Smith.
Yes. So what I was requested to do is in the color bars to put the percentage year over year change instead of the dollar, which was a really smart recommendation. Came from about a half a dozen folks that were watching, and just trying to make them better. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at the tabs, anything I can do to make them better, just reach out and we'll go ahead and do that. To answer the question
from Meredith Young.
Yeah. So I'm looking at what is sold in Lake Monticello. We're looking at median. So I think to answer a question, the list priced The median list price was 304,700, and the sale price was 302,500. It's within a couple of grand. It's awfully close to flat, and you'd have to take a look at some of them. It might be because of seller concessions and so forth and so on, but you're looking at a pretty close list price versus sales price, and I think that's what Meredith. That's
Yeah,
what
Meredith
was looking at. But you could take a look at each one. A simple search on Paragon will produce this for you. But yeah, so it was on a median level. It was awfully close. A couple of grand, not even a couple of grand difference between what list price was and sold price. So that's what it went on the market for and what it closed for, and that's pretty darn close.
Let's say we get to what Scott Morris says. Interest rates this summer, 4.5%, 30 fixed with good credit. What happens?
Well, so what happens, and always happens, and we've been talking about this, and again, if you start digging into what I gave you from the good doctor, it's was echoing what we've been talking about for quite some time, is get your trusted advisors. Now's the time to buy. Now's the time to sell. It's always the time to do that. But to get your trusted advisor to help you navigate that through that, and it was very interesting in her presentation she did in the written version of it is, and it's why we're doing this so much now on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's all about local data. It's all about what's happening in my neighborhood or my street or my jurisdiction. The national data is really good stuff, but it's not impacting you or me on the street, where we live every day. So this is great data to provide. To answer your question, I'm trying not to, as you probably know.
I have noticed that.
Look, it could go the opposite way. If interest drops, we're thinking the buyer's going to come in. It also could help inventory, right? People can decide to put the homes on the market because it's kind of a balanced scenario, right? People may not be putting their homes on the market, and we hear this because they don't know, they can't buy.
No, I think why people aren't putting their homes on the market now is they secure, or a portion of the population secured generationally low interest rates.
That's a whole separate column.
And whatever they choose to buy again is going to be at 2x the rate.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more expensive.
Well, I know you watched the presentation Ned
Yeah.
Galloway and I gave, and I made that comment to Michael Payne that, or maybe it was Pinkerton, I can't remember which one, that, it's going to get tighter because if Keith and Jerry bought 4 years ago or 3 years ago, we're going to probably stay in that. And the life changes happen, right?
Yeah.
More kids, hopefully, more grandkids, that kind of thing.
Why would someone list? Why would someone pay 15, 20% more on purchase price at an interest rate that's 2 times what they currently have?
But there's a calculus,
Especially when assessments are going up.
But if they have received more equity in their home, if they bought it 3 years ago, and look, we could probably do this in.
But they would be trading the equity they earned and
Yeah,
accumulated
so you're thinking numbers only.
for a larger debt service payment and more debt.
And I didn't bring the stats with me, but there was another article I read, and I'll bring it in for Monday's show. On that end of it, and it made me think of you. The percentage of people that buy are all, it's I'll call it emotional. It's not a dollar thing. They have to move. It's very high. I don't want to quote the number until I get the report in front of me. It was a nationwide report. Why do people buy and why are they moving and so forth and so on. So, it's, you and I are thinking ROI and stuff like that. But the typical buyer, it's, there's a reason they have to move, right? My mother and father can't stay in their home any longer. My son-in-law and daughter got a job in Richmond, so they're moving from Seattle to Richmond. They need to go ahead and move.
The thing that struck me from Wednesday's show the most was a comment that you made.
Really?
That you think that perhaps this may be the best time to buy a house.
It's going fast.
And the reason you're saying it's a great time to buy the house is because the buyer may have more negotiation leverage than they've had since COVID. Those were basically the comments you said.
Yeah. That's the reason the conversation we're having with our buyer clients at the moment is once as interest rates lower and this density, density, help me out.
The inventory
thank you.
becomes even more meager?
Or stays tight.
Yeah.
Right. It'll fluctuate up and down on that end of it. It starts pivoting big time back to a seller's side. Location's going to matter, right? Not to shed any negativity on other jurisdictions, but if you're further out in Buckingham or some of these particular areas, this data will look very different, right?
Yeah.
But if you're, in the right location, right price, right features, right conditions, you're going to be still driving the ship because of the lack of inventory at that particular point. Again, under 375 and under Lake Monticello, there's only 3 homes. And they've all been on the market for less than single-digit days, 9 days, 2 days, 5 days, that kind of thing. They won't last. This time next week, they'll be pending. I'm confident of it. So, back to your question, though, if I bought, and I'm going to try to get it to one of the slides here that I did, the percentage difference between buying it 5 or 7 years ago, you've got a ton of equity in your house. And you're kind of making maybe a lateral move, maybe spending a little bit more, but getting a little bit more house than what you were. So all these factors, there's just not one simple factor that plays into it.
You want to get the slide on screen now?
No, I've got to look at it, figure out which one I want.
Is that the slides?
You want me to multitask?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Are those the slides on Real Talk with Keith Smith?
I have not had enough coffee for that, Mr. Miller.
Real Talk with Keith Smith, the market reports.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let's figure this out.
And Judah's got those ready to rock and roll.
Alrighty, so we're going to be focusing on Lake Monticello, which is slides 5 and 6. And you got hard copies in front of you,
yeah,
sir.
I'm on your website.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I forgot you can do this multitasking.
5 is
thing.
on the screen.
Slide 5, look at the screen.
So if you take a look at it, I didn't add up the percentage difference. This is volume of units sold, but you can kind of take a look at it where 2022 we were at 251, which is 22% under 2021. 2021 was plus 4% over 20. 20 was 12%. So you can see how that's kind of going up and down on the volume. We're pretty much looking at, and we've been talking about this for quite some time, somewhere around the 2018, 2019. But if you go to 6,
2022 was a drop in houses sold at the lake.
yeah.
I mean, a substantial drop.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's not that is 2022 is not this inventory question.
2022 was your lowest output since 2017.
And that.
Why do you think that was?
Well, that's pure interest rate. That's pure. What's the best way to take a Band-Aid off?
Rip it.
Rip it. And that's what happened with the interest rates. It just got ripped off.
Yeah, but you had 4 months of 2022, Keith, that were low. You had 4 months that
I know
were
that, but when you start looking at the back 3 quarters of that year,
yeah, I get that.
That's kind of driving this. This is a year-over-year number on that end of it. But I want to try to get to your equity question, which is slide number 6, right? So, you could just take a look at the bars. 18 and 19 were close. They were 4% over on that end of it.
No, I get your point. I think your point is very valid. And Keith's point is, if you own a house...
If I bought in 17 at Lake Monticello...
Yeah, you're sitting on paper, stacks of money.
I would call it cash.
Yeah.
I bought at 195.
I mean, good Lord, even if you bought in 2020, you're sitting on a lot.
So one of the realtors on there, did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Really, look at that.
Nicely done.
And if I was able to multitask, I'd want to try to get into what's active. And I actually can take a look at, let's say, the one home that's for $299 and see how long they've owned that home, right? So we can do that. We can access through our systems on, we can take a look at what a deed of trust was put on and so forth and so on. And we could take a look at that and find out, okay, well, if that home has been owned for 15 years, they've got pretty much a ton of, assuming they didn't refinance it or...
Can you see the refinance?
Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It
Okay.
depends on how they're done and how attached to the property.
Okay.
Generally, it's just the first deed of trust.
Got it.
That you can see on it. That's the primary loan. It depends on the loan product on how that works its way in, and that's really a Scott question to help us out. We can tackle that on Wednesday. But you can start taking a look at them, and I'll bet you some of these folks that have them on the market have owned them for a substantial period of time.
More comments coming in.
Good, because I
this
need,
one
I need
is
more coffee.
this is from Kelsey. She says, Keith, to Jerry's point, if you sell the house and utilize the equity you've built to buy another home, aren't you just accumulating more debt each month because the newer home or the one you buy is going to be more expensive and rates are higher?
Yes, and maybe no yes. It depends how much cash you're bringing to the table, right? And it depends on what you do with it. So that's the point I was trying to look at. So if this $299,000 home has been owned for, look, I'll talk about Keith and Yonna Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I sell my house now. I have, she still hasn't convinced me.
Yeah. You should sell it.
But, that's great when it's just the two of us. But when now with the third grandchild and everybody shows up, it's nice to have the home to do that in.
Well, and you said your mom and dad are moving in, right?
Well, that's. I know she watches, so I'm not going to put too much pressure on her. But it's always there. The opportunity's there. We have the ability to do it. But if I sell my home, I walk away with enough cash that the amount of loan that I have, because what I want to buy will be higher than what I currently have, but I'll walk away with enough cash to buy what I want at half the loan amount that I would want, right? I'm trying to figure out a way to do this without getting myself in trouble with Mrs. Smith. The bottom line is...
You have money there. I get it.
I'm going to move into a better, bigger home with half the mortgage payment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it.
So it depends what your equity, and what Pri was talking about.
We initially were talking about, however, people that purchased a home and locked in a 3 or 4% or lower interest rate during COVID, generationally low. Why would they give it up? That's what we were talking about.
Well, there's two things. They probably can't, and that's why that conversation I was having with the city councilors, how this inventory is going to get worse, because that buyer can't move, right? Because they don't have enough equity. There's a client of ours that we've actually suggested they needed to stay in their home a little longer, a few more years longer. They didn't want to hear that, but the reality of it is because they had a zero down loan, because it was 2% or 3%.
They can't afford the move
because
up house.
They were not paying to their principal the last 2 years they've been in the home. They're having an additional child and they need more room. And they can't. That just breaks my heart. Look, the math isn't working. We can help you. We can go find you something. But to her point, to Kelsey's point, they are now going to move into something bigger with a substantial more payment. If the interest rates drop to 4, though, or 4.5,
that's different. That's different. You still get the sticker shock of the price, but the interest rate lowers the debt service.
What they call the affordability index.
Right.
Gets a little bit more attractive, which then puts more pressure on inventory. But then, Keith and Yonna might say, maybe we should sell.
Yeah.
Because now some stuff is available. And these are not simple answers, obviously. But we surely will keep a close eye on them.
More comments coming in. Let's get to follow up from Meredith, and then we'll get to some additional ones for Keith. She says, this makes me hopeful for our inventory issues, and she says she has a client who is deciding on whether or not to sell his longtime Belmont home and take 15 years worth of equity and downsize into a fully paid for attached home. Interest rates are not driving this particular decision with him. So that's to your point. And that's what she's saying.
And that's the whole conversation of the Band-Aid and ripping for the interest rates off, ripping the Band-Aid off on the interest rates. I think people are now accepting the fact that this is a normal interest rate spread, right? It's kind of, even 4.5% is historically low.
4.5% is phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal.
1972, the average is 7.1%.
Right.
So
People are accustomed to it.
and now they're getting accustomed.
We're not getting bombarded anymore by national media on interest rate hikes.
Yeah, they
it's
move
just
on.
becoming the rate.
Well, they just move on to something else.
Yeah, they've moved on to something else. Today's housing headline, it was a macro one, and it was existing home sales fell for the 11th consecutive month in December. And it's hitting the slowest pace since 2010. That's according to NAR.
Yeah, and so again, macro.
Yeah, it's a macro headline.
And you have to, I love NAR, I love their statistics. That is, in my opinion, they're shining light of what they do, amongst other things, right?
Yeah.
Their list of what they do is so long, but I really dig their statistical capabilities. That's also a leading thing, right? So this isn't today, Lake Monticello, what's available, what has sold, like now. That stuff is generally a little lagging and is.
Yeah, it's a trailing.
Trailing. That's the right word.
Trailing indicator. Christmas, credit cards, interest rates, inflation, gas. December was a slow month. Let's cut to the chase. It was a slow month. That's what it was.
It was very much so a slow month. While you're chatting to me, I'm going to try to dig into this $300,000 home that was sold. I just wanted to see real quickly what the mortgage history on that is. Yeah, so in 2016, that $299,000 home, there was a first deed of trust put on for $233,000. So whatever that math difference is assuming they sell for that, is their equity less any cost of closing and so forth and so on. So you do have that capability. It's interesting. It must have been a new build, because in 21 it was sold for $55,000, which is just a lot. So
Matthew Ferguson has a question on investors, and he says, Keith, are you seeing investors jumping back into the market with rates starting to get lower?
It's funny. I'm working with 2 investor clients right now, and what's happening with the investment loans through the normal process, the percentage DPs, down payments going up, right? You've really got to bring 20-30% cash to the table for investment loans to really take you seriously. I was on the phone with Scott yesterday on a couple of clients that we're doing that, and they want to kind of do the 10% down payment kind of thing, and that product just doesn't exist on that end of it. More than likely what you will see in investors right now is cash, because frankly, I don't want to go down the 1031 rabbit hole, but that's kind of what I'm seeing right now, both on the single, the investment for the single family, attached and detached, and the commercial parcels. There's it's this time of the year, people are starting to figure out what to do with their cash. And that may be what they're doing. A bigger question to look at is the street is starting to get out of this business. There's a couple articles I read that,
You're talking hedge funds.
Hedge funds.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm going to guess at this point. I think maybe the ROIs aren't really.
Yeah, definitely. Well, rents are dropping.
Rents are well, they're dropping, but they're still inflated, right? They're still high. So I think that's what's going on. Rents are kind of coming down. I think their ROIs, or their what they call their cap rates, right, are super narrow. The inventory's low. Let's sell them. Let's make a few bucks on it. Kind of put it back into the pot and see how it goes.
The investor also has slim pickings.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's cut to the chase. Remodeling and labor are going to be difficult right now.
Well, my experience has been the local investors that are buying the single-family detached or townhomes for rentals, they generally have their own little kind of network of folks, of contractors. And they generally, I've actually sold a couple in November and December, and that's exactly who the buyer profile was. They had their own little crews, they do their own work. Kyle Miller is a prime example of that. He does a great job. We're actually in a process of a contract reselling one of his investment properties.
How's he doing?
Kyle's doing great.
Kyle Miller, a Fluvanna boy.
Yeah, so
you knew him as a kid.
So I'm looking. I've known him
Right?
for a while. Yeah. So I'm just looking down through the Lake Monticello. So the next property that's available is $349,000. And to your point, that home was bought in 2021 and has a mortgage on it for $245,000. So that's a huge jump from $245,000 to $349,000. I'd have to take a look at it and see, why that is and so forth and so on. But to my point, assuming they sell that for it, that's a substantial amount of equity that they're going to be pulling out of since 2021, assuming it sells at that price point and it's only been on the market. That one's been on the market for 9 days.
You haven't had a chance to address Michael Payne's comments of building our way into affordability. Because on Wednesday's show,
there's a lot of football going on.
On Wednesday's show, when that came up, Scott and Pre were here.
Yeah.
And so on Tuesday's council meeting, Michael Payne basically said additional supply is not going to create affordability around here.
Yeah, so let me see, where was I with him? So I chair a data committee for the Regional Housing Partnership, and Michael's on that, so we got an opportunity to spend a little bit of time together. So what the Regional Housing Partnership is doing, and I'm helping them through this, is taking all this stuff we're talking about every day. I just told them just play Real Talk and then we should be good. But we're taking these datas and these slides and we're creating a format on their website that they can look at that. Look, the inventory shortage, not one thing got us here, right? But the lack of product, the lack of home, the missing middle to Neil Williamson's point is needed. If you can't fix the inventory, you can't fix the what. All the other pieces of the puzzle don't matter. It really needs to start there. Look, we've got to turn red tape into green tape, right? That's huge, right? You've got to be able to make this process a little bit simpler. You've got to, in the city, we had a land trust board meeting last night, and they have all these great ideas, and I'm the chair, and I kind of raised my hand. I said, so where's the capital coming from, folks? Right? We can't use ADUs, accessory dwelling units, in the city right now, we, meaning the land trust, to help housing affordability, regardless of cost and all this kind of great stuff, because it's required to be owner-occupied. Well, we may own the land, but we don't occupy the primary structure. So we physically can't do anything on it. Now, my hope is, when I lose my mustache, and I've been practicing.
June 19th?
June 19th.
What's up, Kevin Yancey?
Yeah, I think it may go long before June 19th, to be totally honest with you.
Kevin Yancey, don't forget that bottle of bourbon for Scott Morris. Want to put that on your radar right there.
What was that bet structure? I can't remember it.
It was Yancey and Higgins, I think, bet that interest rates would get over 8%, and Scott Morris said no way.
By the end of the year or something
like that. Yeah, by the end of the year. Neil Williamson watching right now. So the land trust...
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil, for what you're doing. I know he's super busy in Richmond. So
the land trust cannot utilize land that it owns to build ADUs?
We literally discussed it at the board meeting. We were.
So it would be the primary residence and then an ADU on the land.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do this without getting into the weeds on it, but let's assume the land trust owns the land. There's a land trust product in Belmont, just to make an example. We own the land, but we lease the land through a 99-year lease to the owner. The owner buys the house, we own the land. So the way the current ADU, auxiliary dwelling unit ordinance, is written in Charlottesville, we couldn't do what I helped structure out in Seattle, where the land trust leases a footprint underneath the ADU, builds the ADU. There's a bunch of tax incentives and incentives that the city gives to the property owner, but it leases what's underneath the ADU. It builds it, it gets the loan, it manages it, and this is a rental environment, right? They rent it out to the 80% AMI. It helps the stock. It works out great. You can't do that in Charlottesville because you can't build an ADU unless it's owner occupied. We may own the land, but the owner of the structure, the home, occupies it. So hopefully that'll get changed in this rewrite. I've been pushing that rock uphill a little bit with the city councilors, and maybe they're listening. And
It still doesn't change the fact that the ADU is extremely expensive to build.
it does, but what happens with the land trust and the models that were out west is, if we build them, we don't have to build them for a 30% profit markup. It's at cost. There's a bunch of grant money we can get, and so forth and so on. So it becomes a little bit more cost effective to build. Prime example is the units we built on Nassau Street, right? We brought Christopher Bremen in from Bramante Homes, and all the vendors and subcontractors
He does a good job.
Worked at a reduced price for us, right? Our overhead is zero. We're not, we work, we supervise for free. The cost to build is substantially less than if you were to do it, or a business would do it, because we'd be paying for overhead and markup.
Did you guys talk about assessments?
No, I wish I remembered that, but I didn't on it. It needs to be talked about. Yeah, it needs to be. I did not have the opportunity. My time window is pretty narrow, and I was focusing on a couple.
Do you have a feel for the tax rate in Albemarle County?
So I think tax rates across the board.
Are they going to go up?
So you and I look at tax rates very differently. My biggest concern right now is the budget. The tax rate is kind of immaterial. Because the tax rate is going to be adjusted to what the budget says. So that's where the rubber meets the road. It's this triangle we always talk about. The assessment's done. It's out there. You'll have an opportunity to appeal it, but value is already there. The dollar value is already there. The question becomes the budget, and the tax rate is just a multiplier between the two. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But if the tax rate goes up, which it's tied to the budget. It's how you fund the budget. They're talking about the budget going up. So if the budget goes up, then the tax rate goes up. And if the tax rate goes up at the same time assessments are up 13% in Albemarle County, then homeowners are going to get hit twice.
They will. Their tax rates will. Well,
and that's going to
make
affordability not realistic.
I will, depending on how things shake out in Albemarle County, and I've been tracking this for quite some time. My personal home, this will probably be the first time, we're awfully close to it anyway. It'll be the first time that the amount of cash that my wife and I pay to Fluvanna County for the taxes for my home will almost equal Albemarle County. It's generally always been about, value-wise, generally about $100,000 difference, plus or minus on the end of it. My personal home.
So you're saying
if I were to take
your value.
If I would take my home, my 2 acres that I'm on, and bring it 5 miles or 3 miles over to the Albemarle County and drop it in, depending on how it shakes out, how both budgets shake out, both rates shake out, we really won't know that until April, May, somewhere around April. But if it goes a certain way, mine goes up, maybe Albemarle County goes down a little bit or stays or whatever it is, my cash out of pocket that I pay for my taxes every year will be awfully close equal to Albemarle County. Just think about that. Fluvanna will be almost equal. Now, that's on my current home, right? That doesn't mean everybody's going to be that way, but...
Fluvanna has no business base, tax base. All its revenue is tied to rooftops.
Yeah, and if Neil's watching, he can give us the exact number, but it's in the 90s.
Yeah, you have no other tax sources.
Very, very little tax sources.
Yeah.
We've had a bunch of opportunities, but.
Speaking specifically to Albemarle, how, if the tax rate the assessments are up 13%?
Well, I'm working on 2 board of supervisors to come in and really be the experts on this conversation.
I know, but speaking specifically for Albemarle, if in the county assessments are up, Albemarle County, 13% year over year. and the tax rate, if the budget expands, the tax rate's going to go up. How's that going to impact affordability, and could that potentially counteract lowering interest rates?
Well, if you have 13% more value, just hear this. Let me see if I get this right. If I got 13%, and Neil, stop me if I'm wrong. If I got a 13% more value on the top of my triangle, right, as I'm looking at it, my bottom right-hand side of and we got the budget. Let's just assume, for the sake of this conversation, it stays flat. The budget's exactly the same as last year, but my values went up. What do you think is going to happen to the tax rate?
Well, I mean, it could stay the same. No,
it's going to go down. No, because they got to hit a zero budget.
I don't.
Right. So if my value is 13%, and Neil, stop me.
He says, are you talking about the valuation or the tax bill?
The total number, the total valuation, whatever the total valuation is, right? If the total valuation is $1, right? That's what I'm multiplying against, and the budget is $1. The multiplier, the rate multiplier on the value has to either stay the same or go down. Does that make sense? Am I not explaining that right?
I don't think you are. I don't think you are. Look, this is what we know. We know that the budget is going to expand.
I'm saying if it doesn't.
Well, we know the budget's going to expand. They're asking for more schools to be built. You know, they need more infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
So
More money for affordable housing. Housing
more.
affordability.
I mean,
Yeah.
the
Got
Albemarle
it.
County has a history of spending money.
Well, very rare occasions the budgets go backwards.
Right.
Nelson County would be
Right.
one example of
Exception. We know that the assessments, which are based on market value, are up 13% on average in Albemarle County. We also know that the tax rate could stay the same or go up. The likelihood of it staying the same is real, but if it stays the same, the homeowner has a larger tax bill.
Correct.
Because the assessments went
They'll
up.
be paying more cash.
If the tax rate goes up, which is the second scenario, it's not going to get dropped.
They'll be paying more cash.
They'll be paying even more cash.
That's exactly right.
So that makes Albemarle even more expensive.
Got it.
And my point is, how does that start neutralizing or working against interest rates lowering this year and people trying to jump into the market from a buying standpoint if they can't afford it?
Yeah. So, as a general rule, tax assessments and market values are very two different things, and we've covered that. We've covered that enough on that end of it. What it will impact is people on a fixed income, right? The folks that can't afford this bump.
Absolutely.
Right. As far as purchases go, it gets calculated in on the front end, you know, with your PITI. So you got your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on that end of it. Your insurances are going to go up, all this kind of stuff. Get in that. So that's all kind of thought through.
Everything's more expensive.
On the front end. But there is a possibility that the rate could go down. Right? There is a possibility that the rate could go down. I agree with you. It's pretty minimal possibility because values are up, the needs are up. It depends on how that ratio goes between what the budget is and the value going up. I just don't want folks to think that tax rate is the thing to be looking at. It's really the budget in relationship to the assessed value, the total assessed value is how that rate is going to be determined. And Neil, jump in. If I'm 100% wrong, please tell me I'm wrong and I will admit it. But that's generally how I've been looking at it for decades.
It would be beneficial to have Neil Williamson here to
Yep.
explain equalized rate. That's what you're spending.
That's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
and that's why when Ned Galloway and other Board of Supervisors say the most important thing to watch is the discussions and the language that they use, much like our friend, the new Fed chairman, right? The Fed chairman, Jay Powell. You know what they are saying is more important than what they're doing. So if they're saying we want to hit to an equalization, that means globally. That doesn't mean your individual tax bill will be that, but what they're trying to do is get to zero so that the amount of cash that you take out of your pocket is close to the same as it was the year before.
Bill McChesney says the city and the county are pushing the state legislator to let them add a penny to the sales tax to
Yeah.
put towards school infrastructure.
Yeah.
That is true. Certainly that's a push that's being
Well, that's
done
a
in the
whole
city.
different revenue track on that end of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But and I apologize if I got into the weeds on this thing. But the point that I'm trying to make is follow Neil, follow what your jurisdiction's doing on the budget. The budget is the most important part of this triangle. They're all required for an equal side triangle to function. But the budget is the next big thing that everybody needs to be keeping a close eye on.
And it's getting to be budget season.
It's very interesting. Ned Galloway and I on Wednesday were going to give a presentation to the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors, but they had 4 public hearings on, and they asked us to defer it, and we're having a conversation on when we can do it. And all you're hearing, this is budget season, this is budget season. You know, most jurisdictions will be focusing, local jurisdictions, budget. So we'll stay in tune with this, but please follow Neil's writings. He'll keep you on post.
Free Enterprise Forum, Neil Williamson. The comments are coming in.
Good.
This comment is from Spencer Hadley, who says, regardless, we're still paying more money in June and December to Albemarle County come tax time for our homes.
You're 100% right. I'm hopeful that you might get to an equalization, but the reality of it is you probably will. I'll be paying.
No, 100. We will 100%.
I'll be paying more in Fluvanna County, Greene County, possibly more. But
The
they got
only
money
way we're
back,
not paying more on our house is if the tax rate goes down.
We got to give a shout out to Greene County because they gave money back.
Yeah, Greene County gave money back. Nelson County, Jesse Rutherford, they did a budget neutral.
Yeah.
They did not increase the spend
That was
for Nelson County
that was
last year.
That was last year. We
So-
don't know what they're doing this year, and budgets. This is if those have been watching the show on a regular basis. This is the time I start bringing elected officials
Yeah.
in to start having this.
And that's my
conversation.
point, that there's examples around Albemarle and Charlottesville City where it's being done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to take. You know, we're looking at.
I mean, Albemarle County and
There's about
Charlottesville City,
250,000 people. How many people?
300,000 in Central Virginia, roughly.
Yeah, but
Charlottesville City's 50,000. Albemarle County, let me give you the exact
Yeah.
population. Central Virginia is roughly 300,000 people.
yeah. And then, the services and so forth and so on that has to go with that versus Fluvanna County, which is, 27, 30,000, somewhere around there, if I remember. the number.
2021, Albemarle County had a population of 113,535.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you can pull up like Fluvanna counties or Greene or
Yeah, I
whatever.
can do that.
But, my suspicion is it's a quarter of that, more than likely.
Fluvanna County is 27,723.
Yeah.
So about
And about
25% of Albemarle.
and 44% of that number lives at Lake Monticello.
Greene County, Virginia population. What do you think that one is?
I'm thinking under 20, but I may be wrong.
Good guess, 20,968.
Yeah. That's
So 21K.
So let's call it, for simple math, somewhere around these jurisdictions are around a quarter. I'm assuming Nelson is probably
See, Nelson County's 14,790.
15,000.
So you're utilizing the population to say they can go neutral budgets year over year or give tax dollars back to taxpayers because their population is minuscule? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is the services that the jurisdictions render are not as big, right? And they don't have Albemarle County has paid fire department, right? Nelson doesn't, right? So there's an expense item there. So the level of expense items for these different jurisdictions.
Ned Galloway watching the program right now. He says it
Ned, I'm
sounds...
trying to dance around this, brother.
Ned Galloway leaves a funny comment. Oh, God.
I told him, you know what my wife said about...
No, you got to hear this comment.
Yeah,
from
I'm trying.
Ned.
I don't want to hear it.
He says, it sounds like it's time for me and Neil to make an appearance on the program. Like,
Well, I think it's time. Absolutely. Well, look for a text.
Supervisor Galloway, you did not like Keith's explanation on equalized on the budget and on tax rate and assessments?
In other words, he's saying, Smith, stay in your lane.
Oh, God. God.
We had a great presentation on Tuesday with
so funny.
Ned with the city, and he said some kind words about me, which I didn't deserve.
You don't think he explained an equalized rate well, Supervisor Galloway? Oh, I love Ned. He cracks me up.
Yeah, my wife said, so how's your other bromance doing? She talks about ours a lot, and she's been talking about Ned and ours with our little presentation series we're doing on the thing. Look, yes, so Ned. We need Ned. We need Neil in here, or Ned and Diantha, or somebody like that we can talk about this, because now's the time that the point I'm trying to make is now's the time to pay attention to this. And we'll bring folks in.
Neil sharing some links to the Free Enterprise Forum as we speak as well. And
what? No quip from him? No.
Oh, he's already.
No zinger?
I chose not to mention his zing.
Really?
To you on your explanation right there.
Well.
Sometimes I vet the comments.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
My buddy Keith over here can be a little. What's the word?
Sensitive.
A little sensitive, yeah, a little sensitive from time to time.
In other words,
he plays it like he's a tough Marine, yeah.
But then afterwards, I go cry in the hall.
He's very sensitive.
I am very sensitive. Yeah, well.
I think your daughters would agree with that.
Oh, yeah. I'll walk in and go, rah, 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 and they just laugh. Go, yeah, go away, little man. So. Yeah, we'll bring folks in. That's kind of been my plan for some shows going the next couple of months while the budget process is going, and this will be a great opportunity for elected officials to talk a little bit about it, and folks to ask questions in a long format version.
Neil,
you can unfilter. Go ahead. Go.
Neil does say this, that Albemarle County, by the way, as a jurisdiction, had the highest local government spending index rate in Central Virginia. And he says the local government spending index rate, the LGSI, an updated LGSI, will be published later this year by the Free Enterprise Forum. I love that acronym, Local Government Spending
Too many acronyms.
Index. Right.
Too many
I like it. I like what he does.
Smith can't
I like how he covers the government as if it was like a baseball team or a basketball team or a football team with the stats and the metrics and the KPIs and the acronyms.
He kind of does that.
He does a good job of taking something that is somewhat dry and complicated and unapproachable, like government, and he makes it approachable with pop culture references. More comments coming in.
Yeah, enough on the kudos to Neil, because I've got to think of a way to get back to him. Wait until next week when I make this announcement, that next week when I formally can do it on something that.
What, are you running for office?
No.
You saw Dave Norris is running for office, right?
I did. No. It's another national award that I want.
No.
I've got to wait. I got to wait until the press release goes out.
I'd like to spill the beans.
No. I know.
I can't spill the beans.
No.
Can I spill the beans?
No, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Remember how much this thing weighs.
I know. Don't throw that away. You just knocked off your magnet. There we. Dude, you're doing
Let me see. Does it stick?
It doesn't stick.
It doesn't.
Do you have any metal in there?
Most people think I do have a lot of metal.
Somewhere in your body? Any metal somewhere in your body or no?
Yeah, that's a little personal. The marbles in the head aren't metal.
Angie Shoup says this.
Hey Angie, how are you?
Greene County residents have not received anything back at this point. We are told possibly in February. However, not everyone will get a refund.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. But Angie, the fact that Greene County is giving money back is a pretty awesome thing.
It's monumental.
Well,
monumental.
Or they took too much the year before and they realized, oops, we took too much, and they want to give it back.
At least it was. They made an effort to try to return.
Yeah.
Charlottesville City has a surplus of like $27 million.
Yeah.
You know what you do with surpluses most of the time?
You
end up spending them.
My account number is...
Yeah, send it to Keith.
I want to travel a little bit more. I got grandkids to see. So it's... I think it's an awesome thing. I think, but in in Nelson County, I think they reduced their budget last year a little bit, if I remember correctly, and they just kind of held on to the money and kind of used that money to reduce the budget. But giving it back is a pretty awesome thing.
Pretty awesome thing indeed.
And Neil can answer that. I don't ever remember a jurisdiction doing that in recent memory.
I bet you Neil could give us that that answer.
Yeah, I'll text everybody. I'll text Ned and Neil because apparently I'm getting myself into trouble.
Yeah.
So we'll bring them in. He may not want to do any more road shows with me.
The suggestion is being made for Jesse Rutherford as well.
Yeah. So all these things are being worked on. I'm trying to map out a calendar for the show because we've got awesome real estate agents to bring on and a bunch of other topics to talk about.
Did you give your take on Dave Norris running for House of Delegates?
Yeah, I think the world of Dave, but
Yeah.
I also know some other folks are going to be running that I know well too. So
I mean, we know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Bellamy Brown just put on Facebook yesterday that he's running for delegate, Judah.
Nice.
We know Dave Brown, former mayor,
yeah.
Deshaun Cooper,
Yeah.
Katrina Colson. Gentlemen watching this program right now, the scuttlebutt has him running potentially as well.
Yeah.
I talked about that briefly on the I Love CVille show.
Yeah. I've learned a long time ago to stay as neutral as you can on this stuff. I'll tell you though, what excites me the most about what you just said.
Oh, is the engagement that people are running.
Fact that we're going to have contested races,
Yeah,
so
that
that
people are running.
we will end up with a better process. Engagement and all that great stuff. It's awesome. Everybody brings a little bit something different to the table. I know most of them personally well.
Me too.
On that end of it, and not to dodge this.
You're kind of dodging.
I'm kind of dodging it.
But
anyone.
I mean, you know everybody in this race pretty much. Do you know Katrina Colson?
I do not. That's probably the one I don't.
She
know.
Is on the school board, the chairwoman of the school board.
I will say this much, and I do not want to sound like the politician.
Okay.
But any one of them will do very well. The fact that we're going to have a contest, potentially, we don't know that yet, right? A contested race is going to be, when was the last, I mean, that's going to be awesome. I wish we'd see more at the local level, right? But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about watching.
City council, we know Lloyd's running again.
Yeah, so
do we have any insight on Michael Payne?
I do not have any
I
insight.
think it's safe to say now that Cena McGill's not going to run again. I mean, if she's quitting in the middle of the first term, she's not going to run for re-election. That's safe to say, right?
Yeah, for 35
You'd
years.
say that's safe, right?
Yeah, 35 years of doing this and talking to elected officials, I don't ask that question unless they volunteer it.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah,
Lloyd, in your seat, announced he was running for re-election.
Yeah. That's no big surprise from me. Michael, I can see him doing that. I can see him running again. I think the question is do we have, I haven't really kept a close eye on it. You may have some insight on this. Anybody putting their hat in the ring for the missing seat? Do you know anybody?
I don't know anybody. Do you know anybody, Judah?
Does Neil know
You're
anybody?
talking about for city council.
Yeah, to fill out the rest
fill
of the...
Cena McGill spot.
Yeah, for the rest of the thing. I have not... I've been busy doing multiple other things. I have not...
Ned Galloway says, and this was in relation to my comment.
Hey, Ned, go sell a freaking car, will you? Leave me alone.
He's cracking me up today. I said, someone that's watching this program, the scuttlebutt has him running for the open seat in the House of Delegates that Dave Norris is running for, Bellamy Brown's
Contested
running for.
races matter.
Dave Brown's running for, Katrina Colson's running for, Deshaun Cooper's running for, and Ned Galloway responds to that comment by saying, Neil is running? Question mark, exclamation point. That
would be a neat trick. I happen to know he
man.
doesn't live in Albemarle County. Well, actually, he could. No, is he in the same district?
Who?
Is Greene County in that district?
No. That's Greene County's on that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. That would be a different seat.
Yeah, so it looks, and what I love about, being the executive producer of the show, I think I am anyway.
Why do you do it in air quotes?
Because I think we've got people watching and listening telling me who's coming in.
I think they are.
And they may be saying, we're going to come on your show and you need to sit down and shut up. I think
that's what he's doing.
I think that's what he's doing, right? But anyway, but the good news is I'm not smart enough to figure that out.
So I asked this question on the I Love CVille show yesterday.
Hey, look at the time. Got to go.
I asked, and we'll get to these other comments. I asked this question on the I Love CVille show yesterday. Lloyd Snook is running for re-election on city council.
Yeah.
Lloyd Snook gets to pick who fills Cena McGill's open seat. Is Lloyd Snook...
No. Is that the way it's set up? Does he
City
singularly...
council does.
No, okay,
the four guys.
Yeah.
The four guys.
Yeah, got it. Well, we want to
Kingston, Juan Diego Wade, Lloyd Snook, and Michael Payne.
We want to
get to pick who is filling Cena McGill's
I may have
spot.
got a lot of things wrong today. That I know they all have to vote
They all
on.
have a pick.
It's not one individual.
Here's the question I have for you. Is Snook, he's one of four making this pick, the person he chooses could run against him in the general election? Is he picking potentially his competition?
So it's all of
Or
them.
should he sit this out?
Yeah, but it's all of them because there's no...
Snook, Payne, Pinkston, and Wade, the four guys, get to pick who fills Cena McGill's spot.
Okay.
Whoever they pick could choose to run in the general election in November and challenge Lloyd, who's running for re-election.
Okay.
Should he sit this out, or should he make the pick?
You're saying should he excuse himself?
Should he not vote for who's going to fill Cena McGill's spot?
And your rationale is what?
Because this person, whoever he picks, could run in the general election against him.
But his...
Is it a conflict of interest? That's what I'm saying.
Got it.
Is it a conflict of interest?
As far as I'm concerned, it's not. I may be wrong, but it's not a
Just asking a question.
It's not a, that may be something, I mean, the only way it would be a conflict of interest if it's his wife or a family member or something that he has a direct connection to on it, I would think that he would have to recuse himself from that vote. Again, this is such a rare thing, by the way, that happens. There is precedent, this has happened. Before it happened in Fluvanna County. That's how.
I also think Michael Payne's going to run again.
Yeah, but
for election.
But I'm talking about process at the moment, right? People put their hat in the ring. If there's some sort of, I'm assuming, some sort of personal connection between Michael Payne and whoever, I would think he would have to recuse himself. But somebody much smarter than me would have to.
No. I think you're 100% right. I'm just curious if it's a conflict of interest that whoever they pick to fill Cena McGill's spot, they could be their competition in November.
Yeah, but that happens every election cycle. So why would it be?
No, that doesn't happen. Filling someone's spot who quits midterm doesn't happen every election cycle.
No, I understand that, but unless there's a direct conflict of interest of some way that we don't know about. It's no different than if the next election cycle come and McGill was still there, right? That person could run. I don't follow the train of thought, but I'm only on my second cup of coffee.
Daniel Pettit, welcome to the program.
Hey, Daniel, how are you doing?
The Democratic primary for House 24, rather than the general election, will be the coronation. Neil Williamson basically saying whoever wins the Democratic Party race, the primary for this delegate seat is going to win the overall seat because the district leans so blue.
I would 100% agree with that.
I'm curious in that race. I'm curious to see who sits out as potentially an independent, because I think Bellamy Brown for city council, he ran as an independent. Is Bellamy Brown going to run for delegate as an independent? Will Dave Norris run as an independent?
Anybody can run as an independent.
That's what I'm curious about, because if you run as an independent, then you don't have to get involved with the Democratic primary.
But I get it. But to Neil's point, it would be a really difficult achievement to actually win it, right? You could peel a few votes out, right? I mean, I love my fellow brother Marine to death, but I think I think the game is.
So what's Bellamy? You're saying Bellamy's going to run as a Democrat?
Well, I think the game is exactly what Neil has said. The contested race is really the primary.
Yeah.
Right?
No, we know that.
And, if somebody chooses to run as an independent.
Bellamy chose to run as independent for city council race 2019.
Yeah. And so he'll be able to get his message out, the likelihood of him winning is just without the D in front of your name.
Do you think he runs as an independent?
I've not had a conversation with him, so I wouldn't want to speculate.
What do you think about that, Judah?
On him end of it, on it. I think it matters what he personally is trying to achieve, right? And if he's trying to, I did the same in Fulvana County.
Well, I'm curious if Dave Norris will run as an independent.
So I can speak from my personal experience.
Okay.
I ran in an extremely big, heavy R district
In Fluvanna County.
Fluvanna County. I ran as an independent. I mean, I made and I know Bell and me well enough to know he'll put 110% Marine Corps effort into it, which is what I did. But my secondary goal was to get some things out in the public. And to me, that was worth the effort of running. So I made that decision. The math was not in my favor. But to me, we're talking about it now. This was in 2009, housing and certain things that were very important to me. I wanted to get on the table and force that conversation and a debate between myself and the person that was there for 3 decades, and force that individual to have a conversation publicly.
And you did.
About it.
You did.
So that depends what Bellamy's trying to, I don't know, but he's
That's fair. That's
trying
fair.
to achieve.
I would think, no, and we both know Bellamy well. I would think
That wouldn't surprise me if that was his path.
Getting something out there?
Yeah, I think
Mr. Brown wants to win this race.
if you heard the first end of it, I went in at, we're 2 Marines, right?
Okay.
You can't think failure. You're always thinking forward on the end of it. But you do have a plan B, and you have a plan C, and you have a plan D on it, because plan A always falls apart as soon as the first round goes down range. I would not be surprised that if plan A doesn't work, plan B is to get certain things out on the table and force that discussion to be had. That wouldn't surprise me. I may have it wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me.
No. I think that's a pretty good read. That race is proven to be pretty competitive.
I'm excited.
Dude, I'm so excited.
I mean,
I think it's great. I'm a political junkie.
I'm about to say, it's 2 junkies and
Yeah, I
geeks
love
that
it.
get into this.
I love it.
I mean, I'm loving it. Guess we got topics to talk about.
I know. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
Other than our hair.
I mean, Katrina Colson is another interesting topic. She's an attorney for the city of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And she's running for a delegate seat that represents the city of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
I find that intriguing.
I think,
How do you work for the city of Charlottesville and then also represent the city of Charlottesville?
Yeah. So you'll.
I'm very intrigued how
We
she
have a
navigates
pretty-
that.
We have a pretty large pool of potentials and announceds at this point, right? And they'll start.
And the speculation is another gentleman that's a friend of this program is going to announce for this race as well. We'll let him make that announcement.
Well,
But we like him a lot as well.
Maybe the time I make my announcement on my new national award, and
He should make that announcement on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
maybe we can do that, and it would be my pleasure to do that. It'd be fun to have him and Dave together, though. That'd be a fun conversation.
Wow. There we go.
That'd be a fun conversation.
I like it. I like it. Weekend plans, my friend?
Working, believe it or not.
Okay.
Busy weekend.
Good.
We're the numbers are proving it. We're back to.
You're always busy. You're always busy.
I got to be honest. Pretty much from the beginning of December until now, we're doing a lot of planning. We've spent a lot of time with family.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on, and enjoyed the time, man. Enjoyed the time with the family and all that stuff. But we are now, our 50% is quite a bit, but we're back up to cranking at 100% and helping people. And, as the numbers are proving, you really need to do your job well to help clients. A couple of years ago, it was a little easier.
Turkeys could fly in a hurricane.
If you throw them high enough.
I love you, Yonna.
If it's on the ground, it may
Love
not work.
Yonna
So we
Smith.
got to get them.
Love
Got to get them
Yonna
up there.
Smith.
Yeah,
Keith Smith, guys.
I took her about 3 times to explain it to me, by the way. Just to let you know.
She had to explain it to me, too.
Yeah, but to me, it was more about me. Okay, sit down, dummy. That was like today, right? So Yonna and I.
Oh, yeah.
I had a senior moment. Yonna and I, we work out our schedules so that if we could take 1 car in, we do it, right? And today's a 1-car day. And so we got to the office at 7:30 because it's going to be 8 o'clock. She had a first appointment at 8:30, so she dropped me off. I said, yeah, I'll walk to the show, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sitting there doing airhead stuff. And I look at my watch. I go, oh, cool, I got 15 minutes, plenty of time to drive over. Then I said, oh, I got to walk. And I totally forgot I had to walk.
At least you're close.
Yeah, at least I'm admitting I'm in there.
X Park to 4th Street, what's
Takes
that?
me 15 minutes.
15, yeah, that's close.
Yeah.
And it wasn't super hot today.
It wasn't
It was a good,
hot.
pleasant walk for you, right?
You know, it's a pleasant walk. It actually took me about...
And you know a lot of people. The most difficult aspect is getting stopped by
That's
people.
exactly- that's exactly
And you don't
right.
want to be rude.
No. I got stopped a couple of times.
Yeah.
Mostly by the cops, but anyway.
You should hear some of the stories of who stops them. But that's for a different show.
Yeah, and some of it we probably can't talk about.
That, no, 100% not. Little ears.
Yeah, we got
ears.
little ears. Some of it...
Downtown Charlottesville for you.
Yeah. Some of it is...
Downtown Charlottesville for you.
Yeah.
Keith Smith, guys, yes, Realty Partners, all around great guy, high character guy, the star of Real Talk with Keith Smith. I very much encourage you to go to realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. The website's becoming more dynamic, and it was already pretty darn good. On the menu bar, there's a tab called Market Reports, where Keith has published data from Albemarle County, Charlottesville City, and Fluvanna County, along with the entire Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors footprint. And this data is digestible and easy to understand. So media that watches this show, TV stations, newspapers, radio stations, use that tab and Keith Smith as a resource for your interviews.
Well, all that stuff comes from CAR.
Yeah.
Comes from our local MLS.
But you get it out fast.
Well, I just laser focus on a couple of high-level things and kind of try
like
to do
it.
I'm working on Green, Nelson, and Louisa, and then I'm going to jump across the hill and do in Augusta and Stanton. To do that.
Norfolk.
Rio.
Yeah. Why do we do that to us?
It doesn't matter to me. I just make up stuff anyway. So.
I speak Keith. Viewers and listeners
Have a
do
good
as
day
well.
today, guys. Have a
Judah
good
does
weekend.
as well. I Love CVille show, guys, in 54 minutes. Thank you for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. So long.
I'm trying to see if I got some texts from people.
Stanton.
Staunton. Nah, nobody's yelling at me.
The equalized.